Okay, now this is where we left off in previous lesson, and we found out that we need to create these handle pieces. And the LED screens that we created are so far up in the design. So let's go back, and I'm going to take whatever we have here, these panel lines, everything in these Boolean pieces, and drag them down. So including these. So let's keep this one B, or let's take it and drag it down. And you see how powerful this workflow is. Whenever you do not like something, you can easily go and try to swap it and change it without actually getting a problem. And this makes the iteration a lot faster. So I highly recommend you to work non-destructive, and that is going to be so better for the workflow. So let's deselect this and try to drag these down. Okay, looks like there's one more. Okay, now you see we're changing the design for free without actually having a problem. Okay, now looks like this is a lot better. And now we could go and try to make that panel cuts in the top. And this wouldn't have been possible using the destructive workflows. So now let's go in. Looks like we need to do some changes. I'm taking this and let's take it, bring it up. And this one as well. Let's take this panel cut. And now this is a lot better. And we have the room to make the top cut in here. So for the panel cut, I actually like this design in here. We have this one as well. I like the cuts in here, but the overall thing is going to be something like this. We're gonna have this piece cut in there, and let's go and try to create. So I'm going to add a cube again. So this is good. And I'm gonna align it exactly to the center. So Control and A, take these two pieces, Alt and A. Now it's exactly in the center. And take this one only and rotate it 90 degrees and drag it back. So now this is exactly in the center of this piece. And you see that it's correct. And let's go take this one, bring it up. And now apply the rotation and a scale. So let's bring everything back. And now I'm going to take this Control minus to cut this piece. So in order to change it, do changes, I'm gonna take this one. Let's take this and drag it back. And in order to make that more similar to the piece that we have, I'm going to make these close to make such a piece. Okay. Now looks like we could go and try to cut this one even further. And you see now it's not cutting through all the way to the end. So that is because we haven't not yet aligned this Boolean to that pieces. So again, let me take this piece and drag it back. And then I'm going to take it and this one, Control minus. And again, take this and the next piece and Control minus. Okay, now you see this piece we have. Now it's live and it's doing the changes on these pieces, which is perfect. So now let's try to take a look at it. And looks like we could take this and try to drag it a bit to the left and take these edges and try to bevel them like so to add a little bit of curvature. Again, let me make this a smooth and based on 30 degrees. So now again, let's go in here, and after that we're going to bring in the modifier to fix the issues. Of course, there's some issue in here which isn't a problem. Later on we will solve it. Okay, by setting to keep sharp, it's gonna do the same thing. So now let's do the same thing on this one, weighted normals and keep sharp. No, it's not solving the issues. Let's see what the problem is. So let's isolate it with this piece. And if the problem persists, you can go back and take the Boolean piece, and for temporarily, I'm going to add some loop cuts in here to make the shading a little bit better. So now you see the shading is a lot better and there's no problem. So we can go in here and again activate this, and this is going to solve the issues. So if sometimes you see some problems, there's because of the bad shading that is happening there, or the lack of loop cuts. So let's take this one, bring it a bit to here to solve the issues. Okay, it's fine. And for back pieces, we do not really need to do anything. So now you see this has been limited, and we have this handle that has been cut exactly through the piece, and we're going to create that. And now we're going to introduce the concept of booling the bool. And by that I mean we're going to take the boolean piece and try to cut it off to make extra piece in there. So why and what I mean by that, let's open up a new scene and we're gonna explain it. So let's name this one to host, and then we're gonna create a new piece. Let's bring in an exact cube, and let's just call this one bool. Okay, this is gonna be the boolean piece, and let's remove that here and do a boolean piece like this one. Okay, now you see this has been cut off. You already know the details, and everywhere that we have solid geometry on this, it's going to cut off on this part. So what if we go and try to cut something into this boolean piece? Because if we hit F3 and go in the solid mode, basically you see that this is real geometry and this is the boolean piece. And now if I create a new cube, and let's call this one bool the bool, okay, and try to cut something into this piece. So I'm gonna take this and take this one, control minus, and now you see the main boolean piece that we had is now having this cut in here. So this place is not getting or is not cutting through the main object. So let's go back and try to take this, hide it, and now you see everywhere that we have that boolean cut, it's not basically getting subtracted. It's adding volume to that. So again, let's go and do a demo. I'm gonna bring in a cylinder and let's bring it here. Now let's resize it a bit, and I'm going to take this and this one as the host piece. So now I'm going to control minus. Looks like I've gone the wrong way. Let's take this one and this one as the active object. So now control minus. So here you see it's cutting the piece. Let's go apply the scale and bring it up. And now you see everywhere that this cylinder exists, we are not seeing anything on this piece, because now you see we have the cylinder cut exactly on this cube. So this is the way that we can create really complex designs using just boolean pieces. So back to the scene that we were, I'm now going to cut the panel exactly in here. So how I'm doing that, I'm gonna go create an cube in here. Okay, and now this cube is going to be cut exactly into this boolean piece. So let's take this one and this one. Now let's take here, resize it. Okay, and I'm gonna exactly do something like this. Okay, now I'm gonna do something. Let's apply the rotation and the scale, and I'm taking this and this one as the boolean piece and control minus. So now you see this one has been cut off from the boolean piece. Let's go back to see, and now you see this piece is back in action, and that is because we have taken this cube and subtracted on this one, resulting everything to come back. So I'm going to take this cube and drag it up, okay, something like this, so that it creates this handle in here. Okay, looks like we could go exactly in the center and try to bring this. Okay, let me see if I like the design or not. Looks like this one is better. And if I drag it back so that it's only on this center part, it's going to be a lot better. Okay, now this is about the handle as well, and I'm happy with it. And in order to make it a bit more good or better in the shading, I'm gonna go and on here add some vertices to make the shading all right. and weighted normals to solve the shading issues. Okay, now in here you see using the Boolean or Boolean the bool, we're able to create something like this. And now this actually happens in the geometry. If I go and try to take this and add a bevel, for example, you see now this one is exactly part of the same thing. It's inheriting the lines in here and it's creating a bevel line in here perfectly. Okay, now let's remove it. We do not need it for now. This was only for creating the cut in here. Okay, now let's take the cube and try to bring it in here. Now this is better. Okay, and looks like there's a shading issue in here. We could go take this one, bring it up the bevel. Okay, the issue solved because the hardened normal feature or the actual bevel. So let's remove that, or excuse me, minimize it, not remove. And there are some shading issues on this one as well. Let's take the Boolean and bring it up the bevel that we have. Okay, this is the bevel and this is the Boolean. Let's drag it up. Okay, the issue solved for now. So now it's enough for the handle now. And let's do something more about the front panel in here. And now I'm going to carve the panels, the circle panels for the knobs and sound controllers in the front. So now let's take a look at this reference, and I'm really liking this in here, how the knobs, how the volume controller has been placed. And this is the detail that later on we're gonna place this one as a texture to it using emissive channel. So we're gonna create a round channel and we're gonna paint this one into it in the Substance Painter. So a lot of these details are going to be added later on, and like this one as well. For example, we're going to carve these details and the text is going to be later on added inside Substance Painter. So some of the details are added in Blender, some of them in ZBrush, and some of them inside Painter. So this is a distribution of stages that we are going through different softwares, and it enables us to do a lot of the detailing. So now I'm really liking this design in here. I'm going to bring in a circle and carve an inset circle in here for this piece. So now let's go in here and I'm gonna bring the cylinder again and let's bring it, and I'm holding down Alt. No, let's hold down Shift so that it becomes a full circle. If you do not hold down Shift, it's going to give you a lot of shapes, but holding down Shift will give you a full circle. Okay, now looks like I did the wrong thing. Let's hold down Shift and now let go of the mouse click. Okay, and now drag out. So this is the detail that we're gonna carve into it. But the first thing is that we're gonna go in, bring the overlays, all of them. And now first things first, I'm going to make this one smooth and based on 30 degrees. So now let's take this and I'm going to do a rough sketch in here to see how these details are gonna look like. So for that, I'm gonna go add a bevel so that we see how the details are gonna be captured. This is temporarily, and I'm not going to use this one like this. I'm only going to sketch and see where we're going to place these details. So now this is one of them. Let's drag it out just a bit. And now in order to make it parallel to this panel cut in here, I'm gonna go on this one, Shift D to duplicate it. And now I'm going to remove the solidify and bevel modifier because we do not need them. So now I'm going to take this one, delete. I'm only liking this line in here. So let's go in polygon mode. I'm selecting that, Control I to invert the selection and remove. Okay, now Alt and S to bring the pivot in the center. And now I'm going to bring this one as a guideline to see where we are going to place our panel lines. Okay, now I'm going to extend this just a bit. Let me take this one and I'm going to extend this exactly in this direction. So the normal gizmo isn't going to help us anymore. So we're going to go in here, hit Alt, Control and Q and go to local. So no, local is not going to help. Normal, yeah, the normal is gonna help perfectly. So now let's drag this one in this direction and this one as well in this direction. Perfect. So the panel cuts are all gonna be on this line and it's going to be parallel to this line which makes it compositionally a little bit better than having something with no planning. Okay, now let me take this one and I'm gonna do something. Let me bring it to here and bring it to here as well. Now I'm going to go in and just add 3 segments. Let me take this and I'm going to hold down or double tap G or triple tap G to bring 1 segment in here, and let's go out. I'm going to bring in some vertices so that I can snap them exactly to this place. And for that, I'm going to go in here, take this one, hit M, and no, let's not collapse. Let's extrude it a bit. And on this one, because we have a new set of vertices, I'm going to hold down M and collapse. Okay, now we have vertice to work with. And on this one as well, E to extrude and right click to bring it back to the same place, M and collapse. Okay, now we have a vertice to snap to that place exactly. And this is what we want. And the reason that I'm selecting this and adding a vertice is that later on I can take this one and snap it exactly in the center of that line. Okay, now I'm gonna take this vertice and using a slide tool and bring it here. Now there's the time for a snapping. Okay, now we have the vertice in here. Let me just go and select this one and make it the pivot. Okay, now I'm going to go and activate the snap mode and set it to vertex and set it to active. And now just go, and this is now the center of that line. If I isolate this, you see now this is the vertice, and this one is snapping exactly to that vertice. And the reason that I added the vertice is that I can flawlessly take this one and bring it to here and snap it. Okay, now you see it's exactly on the same line. And looks like we can go do some changes on here. Looks like we can go and let me take this line. And looks like we could slide it a bit more and bring this one out on that vertice to snap it. So now let's go back. Okay, perfect. And now the lines are exactly in the same place. And now it's time to add the big circle in the middle. And by that I mean this one that we're later on going to paint this texture onto. So now it's easy. I'm going to Shift D, bring it here. Looks like we need to add a vertex in here. So I'm gonna hit X to remove that vertex and take this one, add a vertex in the middle. And the great thing is that it knows the distances and all of them are going to be placed exactly compositionally right. Okay, now I'm going to scale this, but I'm not going to scale this like this one in all of the directions. I'm only gonna scale along, let me go in global, because now the gizmos are in local mode and they're not right. In order to get the perfect ones, Control-Alt-Q if you have this shortcut set up according to the intro chapter that we did, and I'm going to set that to global. So now I'm going to scale that along Z and X. So we do not need to scale that along Y. So I'm gonna hit scale and now Shift Y. And this is now going to, excuse me, scale and then Shift and Y. Now this is normal. Let's go back again to global. I don't know why we went to normal. So now again scale and now Shift and Y. Okay, now we get the perfect scale alongside Z and X and not the Y. But there's something in here that is wrong, and that is because the scale in X and Y have been changed and not Z. And that is because I believe we have not done yet applied the rotation. So on this one, I'm going to apply Control A. Just look at these values in here. They are -90, -90. Apply the rotation, and now they become zeroed out, and it means that they are right. And now again, I'm going to go hit scale and then Shift and Y. Increase the scale, and now we see this scale has been changed on X and Z and not Y. So if you're going to include or exclude a certain vector from the scaling, you can hit that vector with Shift to exclude that. For example, in here we didn't want to scale that along Y, so I hit scale and then Shift and Y to exclude the Y from scaling. Okay, now this is perfect, but this circle looks like it's a little bit bigger than what I wanted, or these two circles are bigger. Let's go and rescale these. Okay, no, I'm not going to rescale them in such a manner because it's going to scale them both based on this pivot in here. So in order to prevent that from there, I'm gonna go bring the transform pi, and instead of median point, I'm going to hit individual origins. So now everything I do on this is going to be applied on them individually, like so. Okay, now this one could get scaled a bit more. Okay, now let's take a look at it. And this one could now go in. Let's deactivate the snap mode. And then I can remove the bevel from them perfectly without any problem. Now these are going to be the panels that we're going to cut in here. And now let's take this one, apply the rotation and a scale. On this one as well, I'm going to apply the rotation and the scale. And on this one as well, let's apply the rotation and a scale. And looks like we have a panel that we could cut in here to add more secondary details, just like this panel in here. So now let's go in here, add a solidify modifier to make that a bit more detailed. Offset is going to be 0, excuse me, and 1 centimeters is too much. Let's go for 0.1, which is a good cut. Okay, now I'm gonna take this one and isolate it with this. And the next thing is taking this one, F3, and take this host object, control minus, to cut this one in. So let's take this one and bring it up the weighted normals so that the normals get calculated for the time being. Okay, now we have this panel cut, and that is perfect. But this is extruding too much. Let's go for the Boolean piece, which is this one. And then I'm gonna go in, take this one, and bring it back alongside its normals. Okay, and looks like we could do some more changes. Let's take this and bring it to here. And this one, let's leave it be. It's extruding outwards and there's no problem with it. Okay, now I'm liking this design and I'm liking this parallel line. It's a great detail. And looks like there's something wrong in here. Let's go back and see what it is. Okay, looks like until here. Let's drag it back. Doesn't matter at all. And then I'm gonna take this one, and in order to add more details to that, I'm going to bring in a bevel modifier. Excuse me, not a Boolean. Let's add a bevel. And this bevel is going to make these details a bit rounder and they get captured better inside the normal map. You see, this is with the bevel and this is without bevel. See, very sharp, and this adds a bit of roundness to it, making the details a bit captured better inside normal map. So this is the comparison with and without. Of course, not so much, but it's going to be worth it to add it. So again, in here are the normals, and perfect. So now the next thing is cutting these lines or cutting these circles in the detail. So now I'm gonna take this cylinder and take the front panel, control minus, and looks like again I need to bring this one up the weighted normals. Always let the weighted normals to be the latest one so that it calculates the normals a lot better. Okay, now let's hit F3 on this to see what is going on there. Let's drag it out a bit. Okay. And now I'm gonna select this line and add a bevel, hit F3. And there are some shading issues that we could solve easily. Okay, by pushing this one far away, we're able to solve the issues. Okay, I'm happy with it, and now let's go. We're gonna learn a new trick. So now I'm gonna hit again F3, and then we're gonna do a reversed bevel, just like always that we did. So I'm going to take this, remove, and now we have this one that we could cut into the detail. So let's go see what happens in here. I'm gonna hit Shift and N to recalculate the normals, and then again hit B to make it cut off into the object. So again, I'm going to manually drag this one in, hit F3 to see what happens there, and this is perfect. A bit of reverse beveling to add more details. And then again, instead of doing the same thing over and over again, we could go in the edit mode. Let me take the Boolean piece. In the edit mode, I'm going to take this, all of them, and hit Shift D. Okay, and now I'm going to bring this exactly to here. So again, we need to go and set it to snap to vertice. Okay, exactly to here. We're gonna rescale this. So let me delete this one out and this one out as well. So again, let me take this and move it so that it snaps to that vertice that we had in mind. Okay, in here. So let's bring it in like so. And then remove the snap. And again, we need to rescale this alongside X and Z. So again, let's go to global, scale, Shift and Y to scale it alongside X and Z. Okay, I need to select the whole thing. Alt and G to select all of it. And then scale, Shift and Y, excuse me, to cut the place for that piece. So now let's see what we have done in here. Perfect. And as I said, do not worry for the shading in here. It's all gonna be solved later on. And because we're doing that in the edit mode, all of the modifiers that we have applied on this and all of the details are gonna be captured, because this is a Boolean piece and everything that we add to this is gonna be applied to the geometry. Again, I'm selecting this, Alt and G to select all of it. The default shortcut for selecting all of it was Control and L to select the linked, but we changed it to Alt and G. Okay, let me bring this in here. We need to turn on snap mode. Exactly line it up in here, and just a bit of movement to bring that in here. Okay, now these panel cuts in here are perfect. And I'm really liking the design. And one way to fix some of the shading issues would be to go in and mark some of the edges to be sharp. So let me take this one. We want this inner edge to be sharp. So let's go and take this edge, right click and mark sharp. This is going to mark that edge as sharp. And now you see we have some more detail on this one. If this is something that you want to do, you can go and do whatever you want to do with it. So it looks like on this one, let me see, or on this outer edge in here. And whatever edge that you like, you can go and make it sharp to make it more detailed. So now let's go again to here, and I'm gonna bring yet another cylinder. And this one is gonna be placed for the knobs. And let's just place it here, exactly in the center. Scale, Shift and Y. Okay. One for this one and one for this one. Now there's nothing actually visible in here, and that is because we need to go make them smooth based on 30 degrees and apply the rotation and a scale on both of them because they have been rotated as well as they're scaled. So now let's add a small bevel on this. Just a small bit, like 0.2, 0.1 is better, and add one more. and make hard on normals to make it look like it's actually having details. So now I'm going to add the same bevel on this piece. Instead of going and adding that, do that manually, I'm going to copy the modifier from this piece to this one. So I'm going to take this one that I want the modifiers to be copied on, and the one that has the modifier on the last object, which is the active object, Control and L. And now copy modifiers. Now the same thing applied on this one, which is perfect. So now that I'm looking at this one, we're going a good direction. Of course, I can add one in the middle of this one as well. Let's bring it to here, and I can apply the snap vertice to snap it exactly to the center line. Just a bit to the right. Okay, perfect. And now let me turn this off and drag it in. And this is now for only the visualizing purposes. Later on, we will come back and add more details to this piece. Okay. Now I'm happy with it. And let's call this lesson done. In the next one, we will come back and try to add more details to the front panel. Okay, see you there.